Sehr geehrter Herr Präsident Boueilh, sehr geehrter Herr Generalkonsul Dr. Miller, Herr Brigadegeneral Carpenter, Herr Generalmajor Mancino, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, verehrte Gäste. Heute versammeln wir uns an diesem Ort, um die 45. Division der US-Armee mit einer Erinnerungstafel zu ehren. Sie nahm am 29. April 1945 die Stadt Dachau ein und befreite das Konzentrationslager. Damit brachte sie den dort Inhaftierten über 32.000 Gefangenen die lang ersehnte Freiheit. Diesen tapferen US-amerikanischen Soldaten gilt für immer unsere Dankbarkeit. Auch gegenüber ihren Vertretungen und Nachfahren möchte ich diese tiefe Dankbarkeit zum Ausdruck bringen.
Dear Mrs. Hammerman, dear President Boueilh, dear US Consul General Dr. Miller, dear Brigadier General Carpenter, dear Major General Mancino, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Today we gather here to honor the 45th Division of the US Army with a commemorative plaque. On April 29, 1945, it took the town Dachau and liberated the concentration camp. In doing so, they brought long-awaited freedom to the more than 32,000 people imprisoned there. We are forever grateful to these brave American soldiers. I would also like to express this deep gratitude to their representatives and descendants.
Die Befreiung markierte nicht nur einen Wendepunkt in der Geschichte der KZ-Häftlinge, der Stadt Dachau oder Deutschlands. Nein, der Geschichte der Menschheit. Es ist ein Tag, der uns daran erinnert, dass der Kampf gegen massivste Unterdrückung, grenzenloses Unrecht und grausamste Verbrechen nicht vergeblich war. Und er gibt uns Hoffnung, dass es sich immer und immer wieder aufs Neue lohnt, den Kampf für die gerechte Sache aufzunehmen.
The liberation of Dachau marked a turning point, not only in the history of the concentration camp prisoners, the town of Dachau or Germany, no, in the history of humanity. It is a day that reminds us that the struggle against the most massive oppression, boundless injustice, and the cruelest crimes was not in vain. And it gives us hope that this is always worthwhile, again and again, to take up the fight for a just cause.
Die 45. Infanteriedivision, auch bekannt als Thunderbird Division, hat eine bemerkenswerte Geschichte. Sie wurde 1920 als Teil der Oklahoma Army National Guard gegründet und wurde zu einer der ersten aktivierten Nationalgarde-Einheiten im Zweiten Weltkrieg. Ihr Motto Semper Anticus, immer vorwärts, spiegelte sich in ihrem unermüdlichen Einsatz, großen Mut und dem unerschütterlichen Willen, für Freiheit und Gerechtigkeit einzutreten, wider.
The 45th Infantry Division, also known as the Thunderbird Division, has a remarkable history. Formed in 1920 as part of the Oklahoma Army National Guard, it was one of the first National Guard units activated for World War II. Their motto, Semper Anticus, always forward, was reflected in their tireless dedication, great courage, and the unwavering commitment to freedom and justice.
Während des Zweiten Weltkriegs kämpfte die Division in Nordafrika, Italien, Südfrankreich und schließlich in Deutschland gegen die NS-Tyrannei. Die Division war maßgeblich an der Befreiung der bayerischen Städte Aschaffenburg, Nürnberg und schließlich München beteiligt. Ohne den Einsatz von Waffen wäre diese Befreiung jedoch nicht möglich gewesen. Hier setze ich ganz bewusst in der heutigen Zeit ein Ausrufezeichen. Die Befreiung des Konzentrationslagers Dachau markierte einen der bedeutendsten Momente in der Geschichte dieser Einheit.
During World War II, the division fought against Nazi tyranny in North Africa, Italy, southern France, and finally in Germany. The division was instrumental in the liberation of the Bavarian cities of Aschaffenburg, Nuremberg, and finally Munich. This liberation would not have been possible without the use of arms. The liberation of the Dachau concentration camp was, however, one of the most significant moments in the unit's history.
Die Soldaten der 45. Division fanden im Konzentrationslager Dachau unvorstellbares Leid und tausende kranke und gequälte Häftlinge vor, die unter unmenschlichsten Bedingungen gelitten hatten. Zudem fanden sie dort tausende Leichen vor. Ich zitiere Dantes Inferno, wirkte blass im Vergleich zu der realen Hölle von Dachau, wird der Augenzeuge Lieutenant Colonel Felix Sparks zitiert. Die Befreiung von Dachau war ein entscheidender Moment, der die Schrecken des Holocaust und die Grausamkeiten des Nationalsozialismus ans Licht brachte. Nicht zuletzt über die Berichterstattung und Fotodokumentationen. Wir werden später in der Lesung noch einiges auch von der berühmten Lee Miller hierzu erfahren dürfen. Der mutige Einsatz der Soldaten hat nicht nur das Leben vieler Menschen gerettet, sondern auch dazu beigetragen, die Welt von einer der dunkelsten Zeiten der Geschichte zu befreien. Diese Plakette, die wir gleich alle sehen werden, hier soll uns und die sie künftig betrachten werden, stets an den Mut und die Entschlossenheit der 45. Infanteriedivision erinnern.
The soldiers of the 45th Division found unimaginable suffering and thousands of sick and tortured prisoners in the Dachau concentration camp, who had suffered under the most inhumane conditions. They also found thousands of corpses. I quote, "Dante's Inferno seemed pale compared to the real hell of Dachau," eyewitness Lieutenant Colonel Felix Sparks is quoted. The liberation of Dachau was a decisive moment that brought the horrors of the Holocaust and the atrocities of Nazism into light, not least through reporting and photographic documentation. Later, during the readings, we will be able to learn a lot more about this from the famous Lee Miller, among others. The courageous efforts of the soldiers not only saved many lives, but also helped to free the world from one of the darkest times in history. This plaque is here to remind us, and those who will see it in the future, of the courage and determination of the 45th Infantry Division.
Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, meine Eltern haben mich gelehrt, man sollte niemals Menschen vergessen, die einem im Leben geholfen haben. Dies gilt wohl auch für Staaten. Deshalb danke ich, auch im Namen von Frau Dr. Hammermann, aus tiefem Herzen den Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika, deren Soldaten unter großer Lebensgefahr vor 80 Jahren die Überlebenden dieses Konzentrationslagers befreiten und deren Politik dann maßgeblich half, dass in Deutschland eine stabile Demokratie entstand. Lassen Sie uns gemeinsam dafür sorgen, dass das Andenken an die Befreier und die Opfer lebendig bleibt. Möge diese Tafel ein Symbol des ehrenvollen Gedenkens und der mutigen Hoffnung sein. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
That's what my parents taught me. You should never forget people who have helped you in your life. This probably also applies to nations. For this reason, I thank the United States of America from the bottom of my heart, whose soldiers liberated the survivors of this concentration camp 18 years ago at great risk to their lives, and whose policies then played a decisive role in creating a stable democracy in Germany. Let us work together to keep the memory of the liberators and the victims alive. May this plaque be a symbol of honorable remembrance and courageous hope. Thank you.
Sorry, one word. Ich möchte ganz besonders noch eine Person begrüßen. Abba Naor, den die Amerikaner in Waakirchen befreit haben. Lieber Abba, herzlich willkommen. Ich finde es toll, dass du dabei sein kannst. Herzlich willkommen dir. Welcome to the survivor.
Dear President Karl Freller, dear Dr. Gabriel Merman, Mr. Florian Hartmann, Mayor of Dachau Town, dear liberators and friends from United States of America, dear Abba, ladies and gentlemen. The International Dachau Committee currently brings together more than 30 nationalities through the camps, last deportees and their descendants, who are committed to defending their memory. The committee was reconstituted in 1955 and very quickly intervened with the German federal government to save the campsite. Since 1965, when the first museum was opened, the committee has worked closely with the Dachau Memorial, and since 2003 with the Bavarian Memorial Foundation to preserve the memory of all the victims of the camp. This committee is a heritage to the very first International Prisoners Committee, which was set up clandestinely in April 1945 under the leadership of Patrick O'Leary, with the most bodies prisoners. Its aim was to organize the prisoners' security against the SS guards until the camp was liberated, in the event that the guards tried to evacuate the camp or to liquidate the deportees. From 29 April 1945, a very close and unbreakable link was established between the International Committee of Dachau and the liberation troops. The joy of the survivors at the arrival of the GIs was indescribable. Their arrival put an unexpected end to the extreme dehumanization of the prisoners. The American soldiers themselves found a horror they had not expected, such as the corpse abandoned on a train from another evacuated camp, and so many detainees in a state of health that defied all rules of humanity. On that day, the American troops ended the 12-year existence of what was the first concentration camp of the Third Reich, opened on 22 March 1933 and initially intended for prisoners opposed to the Reich. From 1939, the camp saw a sharp increase in the number of deportees from all the occupied countries, representing 38 different nationalities. In total, the camp received more than 1,100 prisoners and claimed 41,500 victims. There are many accounts from survivors of that day of liberation and the day that followed, including that one of my own father. It reads, "The trouble in the camp in the day leading up to it. The fear that all the detainees will be executed before the Americans arrived. Hopes were raised by the cannon and machine gun fire coming closer and by the sound of American planes flying low over the camp. First aid to the prisoners. On Sunday morning, 29 April, the SS raised the white flag at the entrance to the camp, definitively opening the door to liberation. Then the International Prisoner Committee and the American Military Command set up the arrangements for emergency first aid for the prisoners and to ensure the best possible conditions to their repatriation on their country of origin. By the end of June 1945, the camp was practically empty. For us, as descendants of deportees, the arrival of these liberators still has the same meaning as that felt by our fathers, mothers, or grandparents who experienced the camp. We remember that they came from another continent to save a Europe falling victim to the most devastating totalitarianism, that they had left their families for an uncertain fate. When you visit the Normandy landing beaches and see the immense cemeteries where thousands of crosses are lined up and maintained with the utmost care, you can only appreciate the scale of the sacrifice made by an entire generation and feel eternally indebted. Today, 8 years later, we share the immense joy of reuniting the few surviving deportees and liberators around us, their descendants and relatives. It's a bit like reliving the day, 29 April 95, in our words. We also share, more than ever, the hopes of a free world that will overcome the new difficulty they are emerging without having to sacrifice so many innocent lives once again, simply by respect for human dignity. Thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and partners in remembrance, it is an honor and a profound responsibility to stand with you today, exactly 80 years after American soldiers entered these gates of Dachau concentration camp and brought freedom to those who had nearly lost all hope. On behalf of the United States of America, I would like to express heartfelt appreciation to the active duty military representatives, as well as the veterans and the leaders of veteran organizations who are here with us. Your presence is a living bridge to the heroism that we honor today. I also extend my deepest thanks to Director Karl Freller and the Bavarian Memorial Foundation, to Director Dr. Gabriele Hammermann and the team of the Dachau Memorial Site, and to President Dominique Boueilh and the Comité International de Dachau. Your stewardship of memory ensures that we do not forget, because forgetting is never an option. 80 years ago today, on April 29th, 1945, it was cold, despite the bright spring sun. Snow had fallen the night before. Soldiers from the U.S. Army's 42nd Rainbow Infantry Division, the 45th Thunderbird Infantry Division, and the 20th Armored Division approached this place. What they found was beyond human comprehension. On the access road, they encountered a deserted death train from Buchenwald, 39 wagons filled with the corpses of over 2,300 people. Inside the camp, they discovered 32,000 survivors, emaciated, gravely ill, many beyond help. The sheer horror of what the soldiers saw inside these walls stood in stark contrast to the picturesque town of Dachau just beyond them, a town that could have graced a postcard. That contrast still shocks the conscience today. Naturally, these soldiers came unprepared for what they would witness here. Young men, barely out of high school, from Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, sent to fight a war, not to confront the machinery of mass murder. What they saw left enduring scars. Some would carry the trauma silently for decades. Some never spoke of Dachau again. And still, in the midst of the horror that they encountered, a sudden sense of relief erupted. They witnessed the first sprouts of the joy of freedom from those among the liberated who were strong enough to express it. That joy, that deep appreciation of the gift of life, gave meaning to the soldiers' ordeals and sacrifices. In a war that had claimed over 400,000 American lives and left more than 700,000 wounded, the liberation of Dachau gave purpose to pain. It reminded them, and reminds us, what they were fighting for. They had brought to prisoners aid, comfort, and freedom's promise. But there was also a feeling of great helplessness, because for more than 41,500 who had perished here, all help came too late. And in the days that followed liberation, hundreds more died of starvation, of disease, of wounds too deep to heal. While the 42nd and 20th Armored Divisions have been formally recognized at this site with memorial plaques, the 45th Infantry Division of the 7th U.S. Army, and in particular, the 157th Infantry Regiment, had not yet received this acknowledgement. Today will complete the picture. We recognize the 45th Infantry Division's heroism, their sacrifice, and their vital role in liberating Dachau. We also owe a debt of gratitude to those who documented the truth. Embedded war correspondents like Marguerite Higgins and Lee Miller ensured that the world would bear witness. And thanks to the U.S. Army's initiative, justice followed. The Dachau trials held perpetrators accountable and established a vital precedent for international justice. To the active duty military representatives, General Carpenter and General Mancino, to the veterans who are here with us, and to the families of those who are not, we say thank you. Your legacy is not only carved in stone, but carried forward in every act of remembrance. To this day, we, as Americans, continue to feel the gratitude our ancestors so courageously earned on that April day 80 years ago. Their actions here remind us that history lives in the choices we make, in the choice to speak out, to remember, and to stand against hatred in all its forms. Let us honor their memory by upholding their legacy. Thank you.
Nazi barbarism. This tablet was dedicated on April 29th, 2025. I will not read the French or the German.
Can do it in French?
Yeah. Please. Oui.
En l'honneur de la 45e division d'infanterie de la 7e armée américaine qui participa à la libération du camp de concentration de Dachau le 29 avril 1945 et en mémoire indéfectible aux victimes de la barbarie nazie, cette plaque a été inaugurée le 29 avril 2025.
Lese ich auf Deutsch vor. Zu Ehren der 45. Infanteriedivision der 7. US-Armee, die am 29. April 1945 an der Befreiung des Konzentrationslagers Dachau teilnahm und in ewigem Gedenken der Opfer der Nazi-Barbarei. Diese Tafel wurde am 29. April 2025 eingeweiht.
Consul General Miller, Director Freller, Dr. Hammerman, President Boueilh, Major General Mancino, Dominique Heron, ladies and gentlemen, if you're here today, all of you distinguished guests, it's an honor to be among you, and it's an awesome responsibility to express the significance of this day, really of these times, and to represent the 7th Army and the 60,000 soldiers, Department of Defense civilians, veterans, and families that call Bavaria their home. If you think about it, we've heard about the history. It's truly amazing what the United States and Bavaria have accomplished since the liberation of Dachau 80 years ago today. Recently in Grafenwehr, where our headquarters is located for the 7th Army Training Command, we recognize the 80th year anniversary of the bombing of Grafenwehr, the 5th and the 8th of April, 1945. Over a week ago, I received many emails, letters, and personal phone calls from leaders across Bavaria, specifically Nuremberg, thanking 7th Army for liberating Nuremberg from the Nazi regime, 20 April 1945. Recently, we solemnly remembered the liberation of the Flossenburg concentration camp. 100,000 prisoners, over 30,000 deaths, 23 April 1945. And today, we solemnly remember and commemorate the liberation of Dachau. And we honor the 45th Infantry Division, as we've already honored the 20th and the 42nd Infantry Divisions, that liberated Dachau as part of 7th Army, 29 April 1945. Over 200,000 prisoners, as was mentioned, over 40,000 deaths, all prisoners forever changed, all liberators forever changed, 80 years ago today. I can't even imagine the pain and desperation of those times. And I'm sure that there are no words that can adequately describe what they all saw, what they experienced, the horrors of large-scale ground combat during World War II, the suffering and atrocities that occurred in these concentration camps. I do know this: it is important to remember the past, to remember it exactly as it took place, to learn from it as best as we can, but equally important, to acknowledge this great present that we have created together. When the 7th Army crossed the Rhine in the spring of 1945, after liberating southern France, and drove down through Bavaria to the Brenner Pass, the United States and Germany were at war. We weren't just adversaries, we were enemies. Today, the relationship between Bavaria and the United States is a foundation stone for the type of relationship that we want to have with every state every nation, not just in Europe, but globally. And if you're here today, you're a huge part of the reason why. So thank you. I strongly believe that it is important that we harvest this power of the present that we have all created, by the way, and together commit to creating an even better future. So the question is, as we stand here, how do we honor the prisoners that were interned here in Dachau at the other concentration camps? How do we honor the victims, the liberators, the memories of the heroes that came before us? Well, friends, I truly believe that the opportunity that lies ahead of us is no different than the generations that came before us over these 80 years. It is an opportunity to make an imprint on the world. Simply put, to change what is bad and to improve what is already good. I mean, I think all of us go through life sometimes and we think that our overall contributions to society, to mankind, are small and insignificant. But the quality of our contributions together have an ever-increasing effect on the stature of our families, our communities, our nations. And if you're a man or a woman of Bavaria, if you're a soldier, if you're a foreign diplomat, if you're a citizen of a free Europe, I am convinced you can impact even the world. Our lives are the exact reflection of the decisions that we make, remembering like we are today, learning from the past. We have created this incredible present. A remarkable future lies ahead of all of us. We just need to decide. And by standing together and through our actions, our light will banish what remains of the darkness. Our love will ultimately prevail over hate, and good will ultimately triumph over evil. If you've ever heard me talk, I always say Bavaria is special. The U.S. Army Bavarian relationship is special. The American Bavarian, the American German relationship is special. It is an absolute honor to be here with you today, to share this arena with all of you here today, our friends, our Bavarian family, leaders from all across Europe, a Europe that we hope one day will be a Europe that is whole again and free. Dankeschön. Thank you.
So much like the young men that were in the 45th Infantry Division in World War II, I'm in Oklahoma, and they were from Oklahoma, Colorado, and New Mexico. They were citizen soldiers like my fellow Rainbow Division brothers and sisters. What does that mean? That means when they got out of the war, they all went back home to Oklahoma. They fought 511 days in combat, sustained more than 20,000 casualties before they got here to liberate Dachau. We haven't had a plaque. I think there's some historical reasons for that, but I think that Karl and then General Sparks would forgive us for putting a plaque up now 80 years later, because it's so important that we remember and never forget what happened here at Dachau. I have two more quick things I want to share. One is, if you walk around and you're here in Dachau, you may think that all of the victims here were Jewish, and by far that was the majority. And that's an evil that's well known in the world. But there were also Polish priests here and others. And I know there were Polish priests because after World War II, 20 of them came back and formed the diocese and the parish, in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, where I grew up. They founded a school called St. Anne's Catholic Elementary School that I attended. I knew these priests. I did not know that they were from here. They were quiet, somber, religious, and they did wonderful work in my hometown, and that's my personal connection. I also had the honor of knowing personally 45th Infantry members that won the Medal of Honor, men like Childers, who I also went to his school later, and it was named after him. A tight community in Oklahoma. We're so proud to continue this lineage. I'm so proud to be here. And you might wonder why we do this. Well, we do it to recognize the victims and the individuals that were actually here, but I have another selfish reason I do it. As a general, things like this are super important to the esprit de corps of my unit. When I found myself in combat, in close combat with the enemy, I would often wonder, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Caleb and I were getting shot at. And I would tell myself, I'm doing it, and I represent those that came before me. And I think it's incredibly important that we continue that honor and that lineage. Again, thank you to everyone's here. Thank you for all that you guys do here at Dachau. I want to take special time to thank the band, and I want to thank our wonderful color guard. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to say thank you for everything that the victims, not thank you, but I want to honor the victims, and I want to say thank you to the liberators and our World War II veterans. We only have 2 surviving World War II veterans in Oklahoma. So they are a breed that we are losing too fast. But again, it's an honor to be here and represent those men and women, and thank you very much. I believe that's about to conclude our ceremony. I'll jump in. If we can take, in order to conclude the ceremony, if we can do one more thing, I would like to personally take a brief 20-minute moment of silence to pray in your faith group as I'm going to pray in mine. You'll join me.
When in Rome, when in charge. So we do have some certificates. The U.S. Consulate General, Mr. Miller, sir, would you come up? Commission and committee certificate of appreciation. This is in conjunction with the 42nd Infantry Division and the 20th Armor Division.
Oh yeah, let me say one more thing. Richard, come up here. So there's been a historical debate about who liberated this, and I'm here to tell you it doesn't matter. We're all here today, 80 years later, and I'm so glad you got to come. We're having dinner tonight. We love each other. It's great. Richard, you're representing the 20th, so let's give this award. Thank you very much.
And then Brigadier General Stephen Carpenter, 7th ATC. Again, we express our great appreciation for your extraordinary selfless service, professionalism, and dedication in honoring the liberators, survivors of Dachau concentration camp. Your contribution is an immeasurable boon. Your commitment to the next generation aligns with the finest traditions of the 42nd Rainbow, the 45th Thunderbird, and the 20th Armor Division Liberators, reflecting distinct credit to you, Dachau concentration camp memorial site, and the 7th ATC.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. My hands full.
Richard, you can stay if you want. That's all right. Stay.
Director Karl Freller. Again, we want to express our great appreciation. Again, this is from the 80th anniversary of Dachau Liberation Committee that the 20th Armor Division and 42nd Rainbow and the 45th. Oh, let me get these.
So I'm going to wrap up with one more thing. I memorized this, and by golly, I want to give it. So this is also for all the units that served in World War II. But General Patton said of the 45th, see if I get this right. Born at sea, baptized in blood, your fame will never die. You are one of the best, if not the best, divisions in the history of American arms. I can say nothing more about the 45th and all the units that served in World War II than General Patton did. Thank you guys for coming.
We will have another piece music being played now, and then we